So, with this video, okay, so I'm going to be speaking of, the chapter, how it works, and how that really leads into action, because it's not into thinking, okay, it's into action on living on a spiritual basis of life, okay? So what that really means is it's really a simple thing, I found myself incredibly hopeless, okay, and so it says it in the book, and there is a solution. Okay, our only options are to go on to the bitter ends, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation, or to accept spiritual help. Okay, so, but they say accept, okay, because a lot of real alcoholics will read that, and they won't accept spiritual help. It's you gotta meet it halfway. You know what I mean? So, they'll have a spiritual experience, but they won't even know it. Because you can tell yourself, if you're a real alcoholic, as you read this book, I'm having a spiritual experience. And then you are. It's really like that. And I am right now, Because it's spiritual experiences that actually begin to heal our brains. Because I was far gone. I mean, holy shit. Because it says, we don't, and I could regret the past, absolutely. I mean, god dang it, dude. But I don't. Because it's in the book, and I live by this book. I make my own book that's really based by this book. Okay? So accept spiritual help. Or to go on to the bitter end, which that didn't look very good for me. A lot of people were like, Trent, you're gonna end up on the streets for a long time. What I would tell them is the fact it wouldn't be long when I'm out there before I'm dead or in prison. Really. I'll share a little story, okay? And I'm always gonna put solution at the end of it. When I was homeless in Loveland, Colorado, okay, it took me 5 to 7 days to be on a government watch list for fucking jaywalking. I'm serious. And we can truly laugh about it because it's over now. It really is. And that's a blessing. Sometimes I'll just randomly get emotional. I really will, because I have the enlightenment freedom. Because spiritual experiences, that leads to enlightenment. Okay, and I talked about what enlightenment is the end of suffering, but what is that? What comes after that? This way of life can work for anybody. Now, you don't even have to be a real alcoholic. It can work for you. Absolutely. So as I talked about that, I will make a video about this. There's a solution chapter. But this one's just based on how it works. Okay, so I went through this about 10 minutes ago. Okay. But that government watch list thing, I was looking up when I was about 2 a.m. I was just wandering around, had about a half ounce of fucking shit. Really. And so, I don't even know if I should, but this is, yeah. I'll save that story for my next video, but, I thought I had a warrant, okay, and I thought I had warrants a lot, because I was just that fucking paranoid, and to be free from that is a blessing. I mean, some people are like, the streets was more painful than, for me, the drug was more painful than fucking anything that went on around me, absolutely, and here, and around here. So I looked it up, and on a government watch list for jaywalking, I'm serious. And it says that in the Larimer County system, that I literally went to jail and got bailed out, and it's Trent Meehan. Okay, so I don't really know, okay? I didn't go to jail then. I know I didn't. At least I think, okay? At least I think. So, this is how it works, and it really talks about how it truly works. So it says self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Okay, but what it says right here is we have to have God's help, okay? We absolutely have to have God's help. You know, in order to get over that selfishness and self-centeredness, that selfish pride, you know, the lie will be different this time. It's actually a pretty selfish lie for an alcoholic. Because you really, I believe that many times. For my book, you know, it's the lie will be different this time. Many meth addicts pursue the illusion into walking around the streets blotting nonsense. And I did that. I started doing that when I was 18 years old. I'm serious. Okay, I really did. By the time I was 18 fucking years old, I was already fucking walking around the fucking streets like a wacky inflatable fucking tube, man. I'm serious. Until I could really do, you know, so the first step prayer is a long one, but if you really want to simplify it, okay, it's just simply this. God, I give my life to you. I cannot do this on my own. You know, step 2 can be simple too. God, I come to believe you can restore me to sanity. Okay, and if you really do both of those prayers, for me, I had to do them a lot. Because it took a lot of spiritual experiences to really restore me to sanity. I've actually had a spiritual experience every day for over a month. Pretty freaking incredible. You know, people don't really know the work I put into this shit. Maybe I don't go to any freaking groups. I don't do any therapy. I don't do any of that crap. You know why? Because that never saved my life. Jesus did, and the way of life in this book did. Okay? So, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. Okay? So, that selfishness, what does that lead to? Drinking. Okay? What does that do? Kills us. So, how do we get rid of that selfishness? God makes that possible. Okay? And I can't really show you, but I'm just I go through it, you know, and it's a very spiritual experience for me because my mind is so quiet that I can read books and I can really fully have the knowledge to know what they're talking about, to then share with others, because I don't regret the past or shut the door on it. You know, we will comprehend the word serenity. We will know a new freedom. Okay, so comprehend the word serenity. I never could. I didn't even know what that meant. Maybe I had such small intervals of maybe at times true comfort in the mind, body, soul, and spirit. But such intervals, usually brief in time, led to incomprehensible demoralization. Okay? And that happened quicker and quicker each time. So what I really like, see, it says we have to have God's help. Okay, if you're a real alcoholic and you're watching this video, you're more than welcome to comment in the comments. You know, give me your number, your email. I'll reach out to you. It doesn't matter where you live, who you are, what you've done. I'll help you if I can, absolutely. But you may have placed yourself beyond human aid, so don't be surprised if I tell you you can't do it without God's help, because you can't. I'm proof of that. So this is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God, okay? So for a lot of our drinking, whatever we were doing, we were basically playing God. We really thought that. But we weren't playing God. So alcohol was our God, okay? Alcohol was our God, okay? We really, and for me, meth, and a lot of different things, pornography, sex, fucking, all of that shit. Cigarettes. So we worshipped that, okay? Because like I said, we didn't lose anything in our addictions. We gave it away. You know, drugs came with the bags. Big bags. Here you go. And it leaves. It's gone. Because a lot of people say, I lost everything, man. No, you didn't lose jack freaking shit. You gave it away. Okay? That's why we have to have God's help. For Him to give us stuff. Okay, good things. For us to give those things away to other addicts. To maybe lead them to having God's help through a spiritual experience to find true enlightenment, to then be recovered. So, next we decided in this hereafter, in this drama of life, God was going to be our director, okay? So obviously I couldn't do it on my own. So I really had to allow God to really just be my director. So even right now, I came in my room. I got a little upset today over just my case manager. He's just, I actually do get upset when people are like, "Are you thinking about relapsing? No, fuck. Are you having cravings? No, I'm not having cravings at all. I'm recovered. I'm free." Okay, so when people ask me, okay, about that, I actually get pretty upset. I really do, because it's gone. Okay, I could walk out that door and do that shit anytime, but I live on a spiritual basis of life, so I have the power to choose. And quite frankly, I don't even want to. My life is too good. It would actually disturb my peace more than give me it, and I'm only seriously not joking. Okay. So it says most ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the newfound and triumph arc through which we passed to freedom. So the triumph arc meaning spiritual experience, God's help, rids us of the selfishness. Okay. So spiritual experience, God's help, rid of the selfishness, the selfish pride. No more lies is going to be different this time. Through then, we are passed to freedom. You get what I'm saying? So, this book speaks the truth, okay? So, and I have a hard time going to meetings, like I said. So that's my stick on page 63 in the first edition. So then you open up this one, okay? And this one's pretty freaking intense, okay? I'll let you know. For me, more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life, okay? So, with God's help, okay, getting rid of that selfishness and self-centeredness in our minds, okay, we become interested in what we can contribute to life, not get out of it. But we can only do that as a real alcoholic and have spent most of our lives selfish and egocentric, that we had to let God be our director for us to be able to do that sentence. You get what I'm saying? So we go back. We had to have God's help, okay? In order to be able to actually do this paragraph, we have to have God's help first. So there's a reason they perfectly outline every chapter. They really do. And it's beautiful because God spoke through Bill Wilson to write this book. Absolutely. So as we felt new power flow in, okay, new power of being in a spiritual experience, meaning you're just constantly calm. Okay, you're constantly calm. You got the gleam of peace and serenity, and you feel it right here. You're constantly calm. For me, I'm just constantly talking about my new life. It says that in The Family Afterward. The father's just going to be so obsessed with his new life that it's going to be all he talks about. So, yeah, that's me. Okay. But this right here, these videos, they enlarge my spiritual life. So, as we felt new power, as we enjoyed peace of mind, so what that means, peace of mind is actually, it's called enlightenment. Okay? And I said what that is, your mind is constantly quiet. And your only thoughts, if you're truly enlightened, the only thoughts you're having are beautiful, happy thoughts. Absolutely. That's what you're having. If you live on a spiritual basis of life and you are enlightened and recovered, that's all you're thinking about is amazing, happy thoughts, man. You get, for me, spiritual experience, it quiets the mind so much that it opens the door for passions and gifts I didn't even know I had. And you have those too. But you gotta follow the guidelines of this book and what I'm saying to know what your true purpose on earth is, because you can't do that without God's help. We begin to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and hereafter. We were reborn. Okay, so through this, all this, you start to live in the now. You're perfectionist at it. So a lot of people, they'll literally just future trip constantly, and they'll be like, man, I gotta know what's going on in the future to be no. That's exactly why you're not at peace. It's because you're freaking constantly looking ahead. And the future doesn't exist. For in this breath, there is enough. 5 minutes from now doesn't exist. The future or past don't exist. For in this breath, there is enough. For in this breath, we will live life to the fullest. Okay, so what else does it really say? I just did the first step prayer too. Actually, I have my own first step prayer in my book. So it says right here, it's better to meet God alone than with one who may misunderstand. So if some sponsors, they'll do the first step prayer with them, but what they mean is it truly is better to meet God alone. It absolutely is. And I truly believe that I met God alone, and I'll make a story about how Jesus, God, Jesus is God. How he was there for me in my hardest times. Because there was years where I was really, had some kind of communication with Jesus. He wasn't speaking to me, but he was speaking to me in other ways, and I would never tell anybody in my family about it, because I was already fucking whack-a-mole crazy. They wouldn't have fucking taken me seriously. So that's why I didn't. So, resentment is the #1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. I've gone back out over so many resentments, dude. The biggest resentment for any alcoholic or any addict is when people think you're high or drunk, but you're not. Okay? Because if you're not, you're gonna get fucking pissed. You're gonna get pissed. And you're probably gonna get fucked up over that. Absolutely. I have absolutely done that. So, right here it says, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience. This business of resentment is infinitely grave. We found that it is fatal, for when harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off against the sunlight of the Spirit. So the sunlight of the Spirit, meaning that if you've done all this stuff in this book, everything I just talked about before this moment, you are the sunlight of the Spirit. Your sunlight in your heart shines to all the spirits around you, that if any spirit around you that you can help, God will send them to you, because you are the sunlight of the Spirit. So if we harbor onto those resentments, that makes us sick and blocks us from being the sunlight of the Spirit. And then the insanity of alcohol returns, and we drink again. Because it can happen like the strike of a match. If you don't enlarge your spiritual life, at least for a while, sobering up. I'm going to do it for a long time. Really fucking. I don't live in the future. Okay, maybe I have some plans. Maybe I want to. Maybe there's some things, but I don't live in the future. If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. Okay, so I don't really get angry anymore. There's been a few instances. But all you gotta do when you have a feeling you don't want to have is you ask God to remove it. And with true faith and surrender, it'll be removed. Probably in 15, 30 minutes, even less than that. Especially if you say, God, in this breath, I pray you remove this feeling from me. Amen. Because resentment's for alcoholics. That's poison, and they're going to lead us to drinking more poison. So what do you do when you get a resentment? What do you do? If you're a real alcoholic, what do you do? How can I be helpful to him? Okay, so what I do, and when I got a little bit of resentment this morning, okay, I did my praying. I said, God, I pray you give that man exactly what I would want for myself. And what I did was I And I did my praying. I did, the whole faith and surrender thing I've shown in my second video. Okay, and I thought of that specific moment, and it was only like an hour before. And in that breath, I just said, God, please heal this. And then I prayed, God, please give him what I want for me, and then the resentment's been removed. Just like that. Okay, I didn't have to drink, I didn't have to get high, nope. And I wasn't even thinking about doing that. That's how you know you're recovered. No matter what's going on in your life, you're not even thinking about that shit, because it's a thing of the past. So, another thing we can really work on is meditation. Okay, so praying is talking to God, meditating is listening to God. So in meditation, we can ask God what we should do about each specific matter in our life. So if you don't have the communication I have, where you just will speak to you, okay, I don't care if nobody believes that, because it's real, trust me. I wouldn't even be making this video right now if God didn't ask me to read how it works. So if you don't have that communication, what God will do, if you truly believe, is he'll just kind of put images in your head. You ask him about a specific matter, how should I handle this, what should I do? He'll put images in your head about what to do. Okay? The right answer will come if you want it, because if you don't want it, you don't have no faith or surrender, he's not going to do it. It's that simple. So it says, we ask him to remove our fear and direct us to attention of what he would have us do. So that leads to this. See what I'm saying? They perfectly outline every chapter into the build-up. Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's how it works. I just told you how it works. Absolutely. I just really told you how it works. So, it's always that question, how free do you want to be? I could never really answer that question. But I know how free I want to be, and I am indeed that free today. And you can be too, like I said. If there is by any God's chance that there is a real alcoholic, or especially a real meth addict, watching my videos, because there might be at some point, just go in the comments. Okay, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are. I will help you, no matter what. Because God speaks through to me, and he speaks to me in ways that I will know how to help you. I pass.